the drive for you then, and once you've now got this Rough Drivers hit, it's doing well. You're out there gigging, like you say, the weekends. It's getting a great reaction. Is there pressure then? Because this always happens to artists, I think, or it certainly happened to the artists I've worked with through the years, is they have a hit record, and automatically labels want part two. They want the next one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the Rough Drivers hit coincided with my marriage. And then in 2000, I had my first child. So I had other things on my mind, really. You know, my children are 23 and 20 now. But I was just starting my family. So I sort of was happier to take a bit more of a backseat at that time. So after the initial touring was finished, I had a break from live work, and that's when I got my studio at home sorted and started recording from home. And I was signed to Ministry of Sound Publishing. And my A&R man, Mike Sefton, was amazing, and he got me involved in some great projects, including Fascinated, Raven Maze, and I was successful. I was writing, a lot of top lines from home, and that suited me because I was paying a fortune for the kids to go to private nursery so that I could do my work. And actually, it was a really successful time for me because, yourself being a parent, once you have children, you're sort of doing everything for all of you. And it's much more motivating. I'd sort of got to the point where I was thinking, well, what's the point of doing all this for me? I was 35 when I had my first child. And so, I would just sort of sit at home and think, I'm missing my baby. I've got X amount of time. I'm just going to get on with it. And I think that's, that really showed me that actually, my creativity is a tap that I can turn on and off. I don't have to be a slave to it. And I don't have to worry that it's not there. It's just there. And if I decide that I'm going to sit down and write a song, then I will write a song.
Well, I mean, one thing that's came prominent in this conversation, Katherine, and again, I mean, I've worked with a lot of the EDM vocalists, and many of them don't know the business. They sang on big hit records. They have no publishing. They and it's a sad part of the business. But because I just did for example a podcast with a diva. And Adiva did all the albums that she did, Frankie Knuckles, Welcome to the Real World, and this and this and this. And, it comes to the point where you're sitting there and the question comes up and arises that she's actually not got any publishing at all. And yet she did write some of the music, and she did, write some of the lines and some of the hooks and so on. Where did you learn that part of the business? Because that's not something that, you just pick up. I mean, that's something that you've got to, put your mind to. I'm going to go away and learn that. So was that something that was, that you went out and seeked?
Well, I mean, I can't say that I haven't been ripped off and made mistakes, because I think that's par for the course. But I was very lucky in that when I was about 26, I think, I was making this album with Paul Linder, who I've already mentioned, and Sandra Turnbull and Kenny Smith, who were Hyperkinetics Management, were managing us. And I met them because I met William Henschel from London Beat on a live TV show when I was performing my Less Stress hit that I had, that Andy Weatherall signed. And he mentored me. He taught me a lot, introduced me to a lot of people. We wrote songs together, and he really sort of explained to me all that stuff about the publishing and how it all works. And I mean, now, you know, I have a contract that people have to sign before I even listen to their tracks.
And kind of that's the thing. I mean, so there is a kind of unwritten rule when it comes to publishing as well. And I wondered how you approach it in your mindset, because if you get a fantastic, I mean, for an example, Queen, We Will Rock You, didn't, you know, I mean, that is a hook, and even though it's only just drum beats, it's a hook, and it's you know, and obviously, how does it work? And I mean, where does that conversation go for you when
if you send me a backing track and I'm sitting at home writing the top line, which is the vocal and the melody, that's half.
Sure.
End of discussion. That is 50%.
I agree with you, but I was curious.
However, if I'm in the studio with people and we're all contributing, as you say, it could be one thing that someone says that sparks you to thinking of something else. So to my mind, unless you get to the end of the session and someone literally has been sitting in the corner playing video, you know, games on their phone and hasn't contributed anything, then if everyone's in the room and everyone's pitching in, then that should be an equal split.
See, I agree with you, and I'm just, I mean, I've always been fascinated with, especially with you, because I mean, I think you're one of the few singers that I've actually interviewed that actually wrote a lot of songs, because most of the time, you know, someone else has written it, or you know, it's always been that way, really. I mean, it's an unusual combination to have someone that's not just a fabulous singer but also a fabulous songwriter. So it's a kind of cool thing to have you know, to hear your points of view about the publishing and about. So well, I mean, I think it's so important for young singers coming through, or songwriters coming through, I should say songwriters that are coming through, to set up their own publishing, really, isn't it? I mean, that's massive. That's a huge fact.
Well, the first thing you've got to do is, you know, join the PRS.
Yeah.
If you're in England, or the equivalent in your country. I think they have some stipulation. I think you have to have had something out, or you have to have, you know, not, I think it's about 100 quid or something. And you know, that means that you can at least register your titles once you've written them, so they will make sure that you get paid. I mean, you still have to keep it on them, but I actually have my own publishing company which just publishes me, and the reason I did it that way is because I have what's called an admin deal. So it's changed hands over the years, but currently it's Chrysalis BMG who administer my catalogue. And the reason I've done it like that is because they only take 10% of my income, or 15 overseas. If I was to sign, you know, with a more ordinary kind of publisher, then I'd be lucky to get half my money. And because I find all my own collaborators, I just don't see why I should be paying someone else for that, because I'm doing that. So that's why I do it. But then I've been around for a long time and I'm well connected. So, you know,
I agree with that as well. And what I mean, I have my own publishing company too, and I think, but I agree with you 100%. But for me, publishing and publishing companies should be, the whole point of publishing companies is they're supposed to be working the records. They're supposed to be given the vehicles to the records or songs, and trying to get them synced and trying to get them on various things and so on, and working the thing. And what this trend of major record labels buying publishing catalogs and sitting on them and doing nothing with them is a shame, because you know, the really good publishing people for me are the ones that go out there and hustle with the music.